You started your career back in 2002, participating in the second season of WWE's Tough Enough. With very little experience in professional wrestling, were you nervous going into the program, and how was your experience there?
Well, it was, I was a big wrestling fan as a kid. So it was just walking into the ring for the first time was just kind of like, the little 5-year-old kid in me was having a great time. Um, so of course I was nervous. I was a fan of everybody that was training me was somebody that I'd watched on TV and admired. Chavo Guerrero, Al Snow, Bob Holly, and Ivory. So there was nerves in that, but I played football all the way up until the minute I stepped into a wrestling ring. So watching them on TV, and always being a wrestling fan, I was nervous. Just getting to meet them. But I played football all the way up until I stepped into a wrestling ring. So I've been a competitive athlete my whole life. So that at the point where we started to get into learning how to wrestle and being an athlete, I was very comfortable and very I was very confident in that respect.
After that, have WWE contact with you, or have you tried to return to the company?
It's I had a tryout in like 2007, but I've been under contract to, under contract for a major wrestling company or other since 2008. There's only been like 4 or 5 months where I wasn't under contract, and that's right before I went to TNA the first time, or the second time in 2012. So, we've been in contact, but it's like for example, like last December, I was going back and forth with the WWE office about coming in NXT, but um, I also have I my whole situation is based around like the fact that I have joint custody of my daughter. So moving to Florida to go to NXT would pose somewhat of a problem. So that's when I decided to sign with Ring of Honor um, last year. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, continue.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying that it's obviously the WWE is when you first start wrestling. That's everybody's goal, everybody's dream. Um, but I think the goal and the dream of any professional wrestler is just to be a to be able to pay your bills and work as a working wrestler and be able to have the lifestyle that you want wrestling. And no matter what company you work for, as long as you're doing that, I think you're living the dream.
In Ring of Honor, the highlight of your career was your tag team with Red Titus, the All Night Express. With so many great tag teams back in the day, was it hard to make a name and earn a spot in the company?
Well, yes. At that time, you got some of the tag teams you're looking at. I mean, of course, the Briscoe brothers are the all-time great tag team, right? And then at that time, you've got the Kings of Wrestling, Chris Hero and Claudio Castagnoli. You've got the Age of the Fall, where then Tyler Black, now Seth Rollins and Jimmy Jacobs, and Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. So all of Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards. So you've got all of these amazing skilled tag teams. Um, so it was, that was the personal mission that Rhett and I had was, we have to be able to stand out. We have to be able to make ourselves different and make ourselves noticed amongst all these great tag teams.
One of the best programs you were involved in was the one with the Briscoes. During your feud, both of you had a lot of matches with different stipulations. Did you both, Titus and you, feel that this feud was the one that put you in the map?
Well, I think that anybody that's ever fortunate enough to work with the Briscoe brothers knows exactly why they call themselves the Bar. They're amazing, and that feud really showed that Rhett Titus and Kenny King weren't just party boys, that we were grown men that would stand up and fight, even if nobody thought we would win. and we stood up and we knuckled up to the Briscoes, and I think that's when the fans started looking at us like, wow, these guys are the real deal. You know, we took it to the Briscoes in Ladder War, which was their match. So it was that's still one of my favorite matches in my entire career.
Now that you talk about it, the ladder war in Manhattan, it was one of the most brutal matches in your career, and we could say it's infamous because all the people in the crowd chanting for blood. What can you tell us about the ladder war, and especially why did you decide not to do the blade? Because people were crazy to see blood in your head.
Well, I mean, I think that was just the fever pitch. The fever pitch. People were. That was we'd done everything in that feud, and everybody just, you know, it culminated in one of the craziest matches, you know, in Ring of Honor history. And I think that was the right crowd. The people there were just, you know, they were amazing. They were, like you said, they were screaming for blood. And you know, a little known fact, it's not that I didn't decide not to. I just it was just one of those things where, you know, I tried, it didn't happen. So, you know, short of, like, you know, slicing a whole chunk of my head off, you know, you got to sometimes just go with the situation. And the situation was it didn't happen that time.
Cool. Would you accept to work another ladder match in the future, or is just a one life only thing?
Well, you know, everything has to mean something, right? So if it was a situation where, I mean, that match meant everything to Rhett and I. You know, that was our I guess our entry, our welcome to the, you know, to being in the upper leagues of the company. So you know, I'm down for anything in wrestling as long as it means something.
Soon after that, the All Night Express won the tag team titles, and soon after that too, you decided to leave the company and go to TNA. Back in the day, after all this time fighting for a big spot in the roster, was it hard to leave Ring of Honor? And would you compare the situation of being champion and leaving the company, like the recent Kyle O'Reilly departure from the company while he was being the world champion?
Well, I don't know Kyle's situation. My situation was that I was not under contract. Um, there was a situation that you know, I had many discussions with ROH management about, you know, what my plans were. I had planned to just see, you know, what my worth was on the open market. I didn't want to leave ROH. That was never my intention. I was never saying, okay, well, as soon as my deal's up, I'm leaving. Because we had worked so hard to get to that point, Rhett and I, and, you know, we talked about that together. We made a lot of those decisions, and, you know, every decision that I made, every step of the way, I told Rhett about everything I was doing because we had done it together, and it would not have been fair for me to make any decision, good, bad, or in between, without him. So, you know, I never thought that I was going to leave ROH, especially after winning the tag team titles. But, you know, as they say in Spain, negocio es negocio. You know, business is business, and it was a thing where it was just better for myself and my family to take that time and explore what I was worth elsewhere.
So not now that you mention Red. So if you were talking with him, there wasn't any kind of heat when you left, or he was just happy
No,
because you did what was best for you.
you know, like I said, every step of the way, Red Titus knew what I was up until the minute where I was going. You know, when I was like, hey, listen, I'm gonna take this match. I'm gonna wrestle TNA. I told Rhett everything. So no, there was never any heat between Rhett and I. Rhett's got a son, and Rhett knows that, you know, when you have to do everything you have to do to be able to provide for your children. So, you know, and that was, you know, we're not just wrestling tag team partners. You know, we're brothers. So I couldn't imagine myself not filling him in, because this affected him as much as it affected me.
In TNA, you had some runs with the X Division title, and you were part of the famous Beatdown Clan stable. What did you enjoy more, being part of the stable or working as a singles wrestler in the X Division?
Well, you know, those are two very important parts of my career. When I first really started kind of getting a name for myself as a wrestler, one of my favorite things was the X Division. I loved watching Christopher Daniels and AJ and Joe and Chris Sabin and those guys. Like they were innovating a style that that we use today. This quote unquote ROH style was innovated in the X Division. So to not only be in the X Division, and then on the flip side of that, I got to, I defeated Rob Van Dam for the X Division Championship the first time. And Rob Van Dam is one of the guys that I absolutely was in. Back in the day, he was my absolute favorite wrestler. When I first started wrestling, because of my martial arts background, I sort of patterned some of the things that I do after Rob Van his style. So that's two of the most amazing things in my career happening at once. But then, when you talk about the Beatdown Clan, where, I'm working with dudes that not only am I friends with, the guys that are just legends, MVP, Samoa Joe, and Low-Key, and then, to be considered a peer amongst those guys, and what was just an amazing, everything, the story, how we got a chance to, it worked because we're real friends. So the vibe out there is real. We got an opportunity to be real, our real, genuine selves, obviously with some exaggerations to the character at work. And how often do you really get to do that? Like have the best time of your life with some of your best friends.
The Beatdown Clan was expected to be a big thing in TNA, but after all the problem with Hernandez and his Lucha Underground contract, the idea was quickly dissolved. As a wrestler, how did you feel when this happened, and would you consider this one of the main factors why do you decide to leave the company and go back to Ring of Honor?
Well, it was very heartbreaking for me because I loved the idea. I thought we were doing I think that we were on our way to doing some of our very best work. Like I don't think we had even scratched the surface of how good that could have even gotten, and for it to have just for the way for it to have happened, for it to happen kind of like, over nothing, over poor business. And then just for it to go away overnight, like it wasn't just like we went over overnight. We filmed like 6 episodes where we were the main focal point, and then we just disappeared. So, there was just a lot. There was a lot to that sucked, So, after it was gone, I just didn't, the direction that they had for me and the direction that I wanted to go in didn't seem to go in the same direction. So, but that again, credit to John Gaborik and Dixie and Bob Ryder. Like we had a very amiable split. I'm still friends with Dixie Carter, still friends with John Gaborik. It was just, again, business. This is the wrestling business. So, that and the fact that I still felt like, even as a singles competitor, I still had a whole lot to prove in Ring of Honor. And that, those and a lot of other factors, those kind of led to what made my final decision.
Talking about business, after all the problems in 2012, was it hard to go back to Ring of Honor and earn the confidence and the respect from the company back? Or weren't any kind of hit when you said, I want to be back in Ring of Honor?
Well, there was never any heat. There was only there was never any heat with anybody who matters inside of the company. And I think that's always been the thing. There's heat with one guy who's not even allowed back in the locker room. And that's kind of like the whole thing was that I didn't leave the company in an unprofessional manner. If I did, Joe Koff would have never, and Joe Koff welcomed me back with open arms. I can remember one of the first conversations I had with him was, are you ready to come back home? As ROH is your home, are you ready to come home? He's always welcomed me back. So there was never any heat or any lack of respect. The only, the issues that I have had was just because of the heat with Cornette, and a lot of people believed, whatever BS that he was saying, and that was maybe the long road back where I just had to kind of prove myself back to some of the fans. But other than that, I've never had anything but a great relationship with management, the office, with ROH, and I think that shows. They continue to have faith in me. They continue to re-sign me to lucrative contracts. So I think that just shows that they know that the way that I do business, the way that I did business is the right way.
In Ring of Honor, Red and you reformed the All Night Express. You did well, you have some great victories, but it wasn't as hot as it used to be back in 2012. Why did you think the All Night Express didn't connect at all with the crowd?
Well, it just wasn't. I mean, it'd been a while, and the turnover. I mean, that kind of shows how quickly Sinclair has actually grown the company, because when I came back, it was kind of like an all new fan base. We were going to different places. So a lot of the people kind of only knew me from TNA. They didn't even know that I was an ROH before. They didn't know, why I was teaming up with a Romantic Touch. So there was a lot of, it didn't quite hit the mark because it just maybe just missed that era. I felt like Rhett and I, as a team, like our timing and our chemistry was as good as it had ever been. Probably even better than our first run, but it just didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't connect.
Soon after that, you formed the stable The Cabinet, that soon became The Rebellion. Was it your idea from Caprice and Red, to form a comedy stable in the first moment? And was the change to The Rebellion a thing you proposed, or was it more like a Ring of Honor office idea?
What I will say is, in life, sometimes you have to turn lemons into lemonade. So, all of that is an attempt to take, an attempt to make the best out of every situation that you are faced with. In my best politician voice.
We could say that 2017 has been a great year for you. After all this time, you are now the Ring of Honor World Television Champion. How is the experience being a single champion, and which difference or similarities do you see between the way Ring of Honor presents the TV title and the way TNA used to present the X Division title?
Well, I think that as part of a tag team, it's you're a unit. But you're an individual, but you're part of a unit. So, with the All Night Express, it was very much about both of us. And if I'm having an off night, Red can pick it up. If Red's having an off night, I can pick it up. Those sorts of things. But as a singles wrestler, it is all you all the time. So if you are not prepared, it shows. So I think that was my advantage in my match with Kushida, was that I was obsessed with the preparation. I trained like a madman for that match because Kushida is one of the best in the world. And so that I think is just what makes singles championships very gratifying, is that you're doing it on your own, and you have to beat obviously one of the best in the world if you're going for a championship, especially in Ring of Honor. Now, as far as the X Division, like when the X Division championship was, like, people would argue that was the real championship in TNA. Because the X Division was consistently putting on, some of the best matches on the card. And I think that with the ROH TV title, I think it has its own life, its own lineage, and it's not necessarily who's going to do who's going to do the craziest stuff on the show, but who's going to, put on the best pure match of the show. I think that's what the lineage of with guys like Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish and Kushida and now myself. I think that's what maybe like the legacy of the ROH TV title is.
Between 2012 and 2017, a lot of things have changed in Ring of Honor. This year has been one of the greatest, with bigger crowds, international relationship, and more media coverage. What do you think about the evolution of Ring of Honor's product? And do you think that they are making good decisions in order to grow without putting in risk the health of the company?
Well, I think that's all that Sinclair has done is make good decisions for the long game. If you look at ROH in 2012 and you look at ROH in 2017, it's not the same company. From the look of the television show, from the look of the live events, the look of the presentation. I mean, this year we started traveling with a full LED screen everywhere, and for all of our major events. I mean, the LED screen that we have, it rivals the Titantron. There's two different, 12-foot high screens on both sides. It's amazing. So now that gives you the look of a top tier company. Because everybody knows presentation is everything. So when you have a company that is designed to take small steps to preserve the long game, that gives you, and then you can see you can actually see the benefits. I mean, look, like you said, live gates are up, the venues are getting better, the crowds are getting better, the pay-per-view buys, everything's getting bigger and everything's getting better, and that is due to the slow and steady wins the race mentality, I think, of Sinclair.
Next week, Final Battle 2017, you defend the TV title in a four-corner survival match against Punishment Martinez, Saint Taylor, and Silas Young in the Hammerstein Ballroom. What are your thoughts going into this match?
Well, I mean, it's just another big match. I told everybody when I won the championship, I'm going to fight everybody that wants a piece. And I feel like that's the way to make your bones as the ROH World Television Champion. It's everybody that steps up gets smacked until they realize that you are the champ. So this is no different. The champ is at a major disadvantage in this match because, I don't have to. I can, once I get pinned, I'm done. You know what I mean? So I don't get to just pin one guy and the match is over. This is elimination. So I got to beat 3 other guys, and 2 of them are well over 260, 75 pounds. So I'm not worried about it, though. Like I said, the training, the preparation, I'm training for it. I'm lifting heavier weight because Shane Taylor's a really big boy. And that's just what it is. You just have to be fluid. You have to be able to adjust. And that's what I'm going to do. So these are some of the biggest and baddest boys. Silas Young is a tough dude. Punishment Martinez is a very strong, flexible. He's a martial arts expert. So these are 3 complete different styles that are being thrown at me on pay-per-view, and I have to be able to adapt and take each man on, and even be able to learn how to play them against each other.
And one last thing to end this interview, what should the Ring of Honor fans and the Ring of Honor Spanish community can expect from Ring of Honor and Kenny King next year?
2018, like you said, 2017 was bigger than 2016. Well, 2018 is going to be bigger than 2017. The company is so dedicated. And that's from the management down to the locker room, the wrestlers. Everybody's dedicated to make Ring of Honor, not just the little niche promotion. To listen, this is the premier wrestling. People will seek us out, and there's people that want to watch wrestling, and there's people that want to watch the show. And people that want to watch the show know where they can find it, and sooner or later, everybody that wants to watch actual pure wrestling will know where they can find it, and that's at Ring of Honor.